So, what does your mental health score actually mean? Welcome aboard, good friend. I'm Paul, one of the co-founders of this venture. Let's hear from one of our experts.
Well, the first thing I do as a clinician, if someone comes to me and says they're not doing too well, is ask myself a question. Well, what does this person mean by that? So I have to find out, because maybe they're not depressed, maybe they're hyper anxious, or maybe they're obsessional. There's various forms of powerful negative emotion, so they need to be differentiated. But then the next question you have to ask is, well, are you depressed? Or do you have a terrible life? Or is it some combination of the two? So if you're depressed, as far as I can tell, you don't have a terrible life. You have friends, you have family, you have an intimate relationship, you have a job or a career. You're about as educated as you should be given your intelligence. Use your time outside of work wisely. You're not beholden to alcohol or other temptations. You're engaged in the community in some fundamental sense, and all that's working. Now, if you have all that and you're feeling really awful, you're either ill or you're depressed. Now, maybe you're not depressed exactly, you just have a terrible life. What does that look like? You have no relationship, your family is a mess, you've got no friends, you've got no plan, you've got no job, you use your time outside of work, not only badly but destructively. You have a drug or alcohol habit or some other vice, pornography addiction. You are completely unengaged in the surrounding community. You have no scaffolding whatsoever to support you in our current mode of being. So how do you move forward? Well then, as a therapist, you do two things. Well, if it's depression per se, like I said, there's sometimes a biochemical root, a nutritional root. There's ways that can be addressed. It's probably physiological, at least in part, if you're depressed, but you have an okay life. Sometimes it's conceptual. You can turn to dreams sometimes to help people, because dreams contain the seeds of the potential future. And if your person is a real good dreamer, and you can analyze dreams, that can be really helpful. But that seems to be only true for more creative people. And for the people who just have a terrible life, it's okay, you have a terrible life. Well, let's pick a front. And that's where personality assessments can really help. I had a client once, and she would say, "For 30 years, my husband and I knew we were very different. We like different things. He likes structure. I like a little freedom. I tend to have things all spread out in front of me. He's like, why does it have to be such a mess? I always felt like there was something wrong with me. Why can't I just be neater? Why can't I just focus on one thing at a time?" I realized that I'm just wired very differently. And there are certain things that are strengths, and there are certain things that are our weaknesses, depending on the world that you're in. So I can look at my personality type and really celebrate my strengths, being flexible, being able to be spontaneous, not worrying about every word that I have to say. I don't need a dialogue to give a class. I just need the bullets. Someone else. And I've worked with some people where they actually have to have every word that they're going to say, or they're in a panic mode. They need so much structure. So the personality assessment helps people understand themselves and others better. The Tonali Club personality test is super easy to understand, and it's easy to then apply to the world.
So, just click on the button below now and get a freakishly accurate description of who you are and why you do the things you do. The reason we have this $7 offer and not $150 is we want to over-deliver and provide as much value as possible, thereby enticing as many new people into our community as we can, and really building a long-lasting, sustainable relationship with people through our advanced programs and services. This $7 offer only applies to the next 100 customers. If you're hearing this, we still have just a few remaining. After that, the price goes back to $150. If for some reason you're not as happy with the personality test as the other over 425,000 people who took it, just let us know and we'll refund you. Absolutely no questions asked. So act now, because once this offer is